What did we talk about last week? What did we start discussing?
Ruck policy.
Yeah, ruck policy, right? And what are the main points around the ruck policies? What's the main reason why we have a ruck policy, do you think?
So that the whole team is on the same page based on what they should do at the breakdown.
Yeah, perfect, right? And that's like anything. So whether it's an attacking formation or attacking strategies, whether it's a defensive formation and defensive calls, it's the same thing, right? We need to have these ruck policies in place so that we know what we're doing as a team. And that's kind of what we're going to discuss today when we look at our kicking options. And so if we can just briefly shout out what kicking options are there within a game of rugby. Let's just start with that. What kicking options are there in a game of rugby?
The punt.
Yep, out of hand punt.
Okay, grubber kicks.
Grubber kick, perfect.
The up and under.
Yeah, high ball, up and under.
Yeah.
Kicking for touch.
Kicking for touch, perfect. Let's keep rolling.
You still have the penalty conversion.
Penalties, conversions, absolutely. Kicks for points.
Kick pass.
Yeah, like a crossfield kick, right?
Yep. And the last one would be the chip kick.
Yeah, just a nice little kick over. So I've just put a few here. Like, so we've kind of talked about these: the spiral, the punt, the up and under, the grubber kick, the crossfield kick, kicking for points, and restarts. And so we can talk around like the spiral, the grubbers, the crossfield kick, the points, all those kind of things, but they're pretty self-explanatory in how we actually do it. It's if we see space, then we'll put the ball into space. If the defense is good and we can't break it, then we'll put the ball over. We talked around methods of attack. You can go through, over, or around. A great way to go use one of them is the kick. But what we're really going to look at today for the next 15 minutes or so is just the restarts and what is the effective ways to restart a game. So when we look at the field position and we look at the kickoff, who has, again, similarly to a ruck policy, who has a system of kickoffs where they can actually start to work as a group and as a team to understand what their kickoff formation looks like?
Not really a policy as such. I mean, most of the time I end up having the girls do the what do you call it? The back three, normally covering between the 5 and the 15 on the kickoffs.
Yep.
And I try to get them. What we're working on right now is trying to place the ball kind of like where you have the 3 on the screen here, right? Maybe about 5 meters inside the 10-yard line. So they're running onto the ball. They're not waiting to see if the ball is going to drop 10 meters or not. Yeah,
so that would be if we're receiving the ball, right? So we'd have our players here. So we're receiving the ball. But what about where we're actually kicking the ball?
No, I mean on kickoff. On kickoff, I normally have them, the back 3 behind the kicker going onto the ball.
Oh, okay.
Trying to get the ball 5 yards beyond the 10. That way we are basically targeting one of their players with the high ball.
Okay, perfect. So let's say we've got the blue teams on the attack, and we've got our back 3 players or our fastest players who are here, and they're chasing the ball when it's kicked. Correct?
Yes.
Yep. Perfect. So if that's the case, what area of the field do we want to put the ball into?
Shallow.
Shallow, so we can compete and contest.
Yes.
Yep. So I've labeled these 4 areas, right? So we can see 1, 2, 3, and 4 labeled. And the reason why they're labeled is because this is the way, personally, I look at my kickoffs. And I think in terms of the order, these are our best options if this is what we're looking to retain the ball back. And I'll explain why. So if we kick the ball to number 1, typically what's going to happen from this position, number one? Can we contest in the air? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. So we're short enough away from the 10-meter line that we can contest. What's the likelihood of the opposition making a mistake? So they're in that
Pretty
position.
high.
Pretty high. Because the ball's in the air, they're under pressure. So we can either contest the ball in the air or we can win the ball back through a mistake. What is the likelihood that we get a complete clean catch?
For us, pretty high.
Pretty
Still.
high? Yeah, it's probably the
Yeah.
highest, right? Which direction would, when we jump in the air, which hand would we lead with? So we're the blue 6. We're running up. Which hand would we lead with?
Right hand.
Right hand. And what hand would the number 1 player lead with, the red player?
Their left.
So typically a player's right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
Yep. So straight away we've got an advantage because you're kicking to the right-hand side and we're leading with our right hand. So our timing is probably going to be a little bit better unless we are coaching at the top level where everybody is kind of consistent left or right. But even then, they still have a stronger hand. Let's say, hypothetically, we don't win the ball in that number 1 position and the red team get the ball. What hand are they passing off?
They're passing weak side. They're passing off their left.
They're passing on their weaker hand, right? So they're not going to be able to get the ball into the positions that they want to get to because they're passing off their weaker side. So let's say they do get the ball and they create a ruck. All right, their width is probably going to be a lot shorter, which means defensively we can put pressure on them a lot earlier as a defensive team. So if that's the case, that's why we're looking at number 1, our number 1 position as our favored position, because it's in the air, it's probably going to be contestable. We're leading with our stronger hand, they're leading with their weaker hand. And if they do win the ball back, they're not probably in a position where they can move the ball with pace, right? So what about if we were to kick to 2? What would be the understanding behind 2? Why would we kick for 2?
To hopefully pin them back into their...
So pretty much for all the reasons we just talked about with number 1, we pin them back so they're already in that kind of position or formation. However, what's their other option now that they can do? If they're this far back into there, they're going to kick it, right?
Yeah.
Typically, what foot are they going to kick with?
Right foot.
Their right foot. So where's the ball going to go? Is it going to go in field or out of the field? Typically.
Infield, probably.
Infield on their right foot?
Out.
It's probably going to be easier for them to kick with their right foot, cutting across the ball to kick out of the field, right? What does that result in for us?
Lineup.
An attacking line out, probably about between the the 10-meter line and the 22, which is a pretty nice attacking line out. Are we following this? Are we following where I'm coming from here? So what would happen if we kick to 3? Why is that not as good an option as number 1?
Because then we're attacking with our weak side. And if we recover it, then we're passing to our weak side.
Yeah, and what are they doing with if they recover the ball?
They're able to pass to their strong side. We'll probably give them a little bit more width and pace.
Absolutely. And then if we look at that same thing with number 4, what are we looking at there? Think about the kicking option now. Are they going to kick infield or to touch?
Oh, then they'll probably kick infield.
Yeah, so if they're kicking infield, right, because we've got a right footer typically, it's a lot easier for them to kick it down the channel or to kick it open, right? And if they kick it open, what are they able to do as a group?
Chase. Or
they can kick chase.
Yeah.
So if they kick chase, where does that end? Where does that start our attack? Let's say they put a really good kick in. Let's say they end up here in defense. We have to start our defense way higher up, our attack way higher up.
Okay.
Right. So similarly to the ruck policy, having these kicking options in these areas of the field actually allows us then to start to manipulate how we want to attack or how we want to defend. Are we following this?
Yes.
Yep. So if we're looking to, let's put a few scenarios in this as we typically do. If we're 3 tries ahead and we are 5 minutes away from the final whistle and we have the ball for a kickoff, where do we want to put the ball?
Deep down in 2.
2.
So in the 2 area. And Dirk, so why would that be?
Basically pin them back, give them a longer distance to go, and put it on the weak side.
And we're not desperate for possession.
Yeah, we're not desperate for possession. We want to pin them back, and we want to force them to try and create something to maybe turn the ball over, right? So they need to score tries. So we put them as far back as possible. What about if we are 2 minutes from full time and we are 3 tries behind? Where do we put the ball?
To that one position and try to go contest for it?
For the question mark.
So why the question mark?
No.
Usually you have 2 attacking players on 1, and they're not defending that spot as well. They don't usually have a lifter there, so there's more options of getting the ball back. Right, but so it's high risk because it's middle of the field. If you lose the ball, they have a great attacking platform.
Yeah, so what you're saying is there's 2 players in this box typically. There's 2 players in this box, but there's only really 1 player in this box. Yeah, and so I think you're right in terms of it is quite high risk to put it in here because if we don't win that, the attacking options are great, but we need that ball back straight away. That's why it's a question mark, because it's like, do we want to risk that if we've got 2 minutes left? Let's say we are playing a 7s game, we've got 2 minutes left. If we contest at 1, we win the ball back and we score straight away, we get the kickoff again, so we can go again, right? Whereas if we're 3 tries behind with 2 minutes left, and we concede 1 more try by kicking to the question mark, then maybe we're in a bad place then. So it's just being able to manage these expectations. What would we say if we kick it really, really deep and we hit that number 4 position? What kind of kick chase would we want?
Relatively slow, like more of a containment than necessarily fast and aggressive.
Okay. Can you explain why?
Well, the chances of them being able to attack out are greater. There's a higher chance of them being able to kick successfully in the field. So we need to have more players either back to receive for the counterattack or to be available for the ruck.
Interesting. So if we go steady, right? Let's say we've got a really slow kind of movement as we're coming up. What are their options going to be? So as that defensive line comes up, what are their options going to be?
They can kick over.
Yep, they can kick over. What are they typically going to do off their right hand?
Pass.
They're probably going to pass it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they probably see that they have that space. So if we're going to kick to 4, it's important that our kick chase actually probably, and you use the word there, contain, kind of comes up a little bit faster than the outside. Faster on the outside so they can actually contain them and actually go into contact. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we're closing away this corner here, right? So we're taking away this space in order for them to take it up the middle. If they take it up the middle, they probably then forced to kick it out. If they're forced to kick it out, we retain the ball. If we had the options and we then would say, okay, fine, we have, it's half time. We have kickoff. we're playing sevens, for example, we have kickoff, it's half time, the score's at 0-0. We have a really good history in defense. We don't really have a history of contesting possession in the air. But we do have a really good defense in open play. Where would we kick the ball?
To 2.
Yeah, right. Pretty easy, right? It's like we've got a good defense. We're not very good at contesting in the air. Let's put it into the corner and see what they've got. We've got a good defense. Let's back our defense. What about if we had a history of a really high percentage of winning the ball in the air, but our kicker had just been injured and taken off the field, and our secondary kicker comes in who is a little bit unsure about their ability to kick to the contestable positions? Where would we kick the ball?
I'd still aim for 2, probably, just
Still,
to at least pin them back.
Yeah, because it's safe, right? What about if we have a really, really good kicker who can put the ball wherever they want, and we've got a really highly contestable team in the air?
Oh, that's a 1.
It's pretty simple, this, right? You can see where I'm going with this. It's really quite simple. It's really easy for players to get on the same page very straight away. So what we're looking at here is a lot of the time in sevens, not necessarily on the TV, but if you go and watch like some club stuff, you'll see like this kind of formation, and you'll see the attack stand in this kind of formation when kicking off. And it's pretty obvious which way we're going to go, right? We're going to go to the right. It's like, yeah, well, okay, we'll go to the right. However, if we stand in this kind of formation, what options do we have?
Well, you still go to the same places and you'd still have potentially the same aerial ability, but you're going to spread out their defense more in receiving it.
Absolutely, right. So if we know that if we have these players come across the other side, we know where the ball's going to go. They're not going to kick it to the left side. They're going to kick it to the right side. They're going to contest. What is their attack's first motion or movement going to be once they catch the ball? So the ball gets kicked to the one channel. They catch it.
Spin it out wide.
They're going to go wide straight away, right? Yeah. And so what we've done is we've left ourselves in a risky position, so we can contest at 1, that's fine. But we leave ourselves in a risky position of being isolated or outside. So in this kind of formation, what we're able to do is actually go, we can put the ball in any box, contest it, and also contain at the same time. If we have a kicker who can put everything in the 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes, we can contest, we can contain, and we can even turn the ball over and have a good attacking platform for ourselves. And it's really interesting to me when we watch sevens, which is not at the international level, the confusion that players have sometimes from kickoffs in terms of what they're doing, where they're standing, who's meant to be doing what, and then also like, well, where should we kick the ball? And often it's just hey, let's just kick it and try and get it 10 meters, right? But if we can work on, it's similar to the RUC policy, understanding what's my role, what's our policy within the group, then it becomes a lot easier because then we can start to build off that. So for example, if we kick the ball to 1 and we have the blue team who have caught the ball, we can now start to organize our attack. What do we do when we catch the ball from 1? Right, so it's actually quite interesting. We're doing this at ARPTC actually today. We've just finished the session. When we catch the ball in this position, what we do is we crash somebody up the middle straight away here. If the ball gets kicked to 2, what we do is we actually go, right, we'll move at the ball and we'll move the ball as far wide as possible. And so we can actually start to build up a setup and an understanding of the players for the first 3 phases before they just go into fluid play mode. So we're getting people in the right frame of mind to attack or defend. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Do we have any questions around these restart options?
No.
No, nothing at all.
I mean, to be honest with you, typically my first instinct would be to move the ball from the position of the catch a little bit wider and give you a better target to the sideline. Put it as far back up the field as possible.
Yeah. So what would happen then? So let's go to that. So what you're saying is, let's say we catch it in the 1 position, the 4, the 6. We have a breakdown because they've been tackled as they've caught it, and I think what you're saying, Dirk, is just move the ball straight away.
Yeah, from that position, from the higher up catch, like the 1 or the 3, you move it out, basically run it out as far out to the wing as possible. Right. For this, from the number 2 position, I normally get the catcher to pass it out to somebody inside of the 15, between the 15s, so that you have a little bit better angle, and try to put it closer to the halfway line.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is then the defense is almost getting split. So the defense is split. So we've caught the ball, defense comes up, and we actually then split the defense, so they have to make a decision. Yeah. So the defense comes up. You're saying move the ball to the middle, which I think probably player. So now we have a ruck in the middle. The 3 and the 1 come in, and now what you have is 2 options left and right.
Yes.
Yeah.
From the 1 position, yes.
So if that's the case from the 1 position, what would happen is, as soon as you catch the ball, you get tackled. What would you do?
Me generally, it's tackle would be the same thing. 1 person in to try and recover it, and defend going out on the wide side.
So are we talking in the red team or blue team?
And with the red team, if the blue team catches it and the red team recovers it from the tackle it out, the blue team, which would be me receiving, you'd be running out to their right, to your right. So you'd be coming back across the field.
Yes. So you'd look to attack almost in the middle of the field.
Yes.
In like this kind of area.
Yes, right about center field.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the one of the useful things is again kind of like the ruck policy, right? Is there's no right answer with this, but it's making sure that we are comfortable as a group and as a team, understanding what is our next role if the ball lands in 1. So if we're kicking the ball off and we know that the ball can go to 1, 2, 3, or 4, we know where we're going. We can also counter that when receiving it. So if the ball gets kicked to 2, what are we going to do for the next 2, 3 phases? If the ball gets kicked to 2, if the ball gets kicked to 1, what are we going to do? Right. So we can have we can start to have a policy and a game plan around where the ball is going to land. Again, nothing completely rocket science here, or I don't think anything that people are really confused about, right? It's quite obvious when we talk through it. And I think it's quite unique, because I think as coaches, sometimes we are trying to overcomplicate the game. When we just look at this and go, actually, if they're going to kick to 1, why do we kick to 1? Because we're right-handed. It makes it easier for us to contest, right? Brant, that's not new information to anybody anywhere, right? It's actually quite cool that we're actually looking at this in such a simple way, but making it so effective. And it helps players a lot as well, like understanding, okay, well, where are we going to kick it? Well, why are we going to kick it there? okay, so we kick it there. That's the result that we want to get. If we get that result, what's our next option? And just being able to allow players to have some understanding of what the decision making is and why they're doing that.
So one of the things that I noticed, my focus is really more on 15s and 7s, although I've coached both, is for 15s, we've always done, pack right, pack left. But thinking about it as the team kicking off, why wouldn't you split your backs and your forwards on both sides and then force the receiving team to split their, lifters and then attack those areas of the field? Something I'm definitely going to look at for this season for our players.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've never understood that kind of forwards left, backs right kind of mindset. For me, it should be the more options you have to retain the ball, that should be your option. So if you've got 2 second rows, for example, who are very, very good in the air and they're very good at retaining the ball, then put them on 2 sides of the field. Because the reality is you're only going to get one person who catches the ball in the air. You're not going to have 2 people. But I think a lot of the time, that kind of is a tradition from past where it's like, well, we want forwards to make tackles and we want backs to stay away from contact. And the kickoff was a combative scenario a few years ago, where I think kickoffs now are becoming a lot more tactical and, being able to split your options, I think is a bit more of a better option. Personally, and I know there's still teams that do left and right, and that's fine as well if that's what they want. But I think if you have a group of players who is understanding around what you're trying to get out of a kickoff, not just compete for the ball in the air, but also those other things that we talked about. Are they left-handed? Are they be able to kick the ball out in the right places for you to attack from? That's when you can start to refigure and recalibrate. If they kick the ball out into the 22, then you have an attacking line out. The 2 locks are going to come back together anyway because if it's a line out. So I think, exploring those options are really useful and beneficial. Okay, are we happy?
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
So next week, what we'll do is we're going to cover roles and positions, or roles versus positions, and I think that will be quite a useful topic that we're talking about. But then the week after that, I'd like you guys to. It's just going to be an open Q&A. So the next couple of weeks, think about all the stuff that we've talked about, or anything else that you may have that you want to ask questions about, and I'm very happy to answer as many questions as I can regarding whether it's coaching, whether it's rugby, anything that you guys want information from or about, or even some questions maybe about ARPTC and some coach development opportunities or further coach development opportunities, things like that. So please make sure that you write down the questions that you want, and the week after next, we'll talk through those questions. The next week will be roles versus positions.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.